The sound of the radio static blended like an aluminum blanket with the sound of the rain tapping rhythmically on the cold corrugated metal roof of the temporary communication hut. The early evening fog was silently invading the hills of this sparsely populated northern territory. Soon only the tips of the pines would be visible. The small hut was heated by a tiny fire with a makeshift chimney made from empty tins of army-grade beef stew. Where a screw had been turned to fix the metal roof to the wooden beam in the center of the room, this had become a capillary, the source, a liquid keyhole for the drips of water which were slowly turning the dirt floor into mud. The soldier tapped the radio in bored frustration with his swollen red hands, hoping the shock would encourage a message, a voice, just a simple hello to break through the monotonous static. But the tap changed nothing. He stood up and pried a glimpse through the peephole in the plywood wall with his binoculars. He scanned the descending countryside and the mountains across the valley that appeared to be floating in misty cotton. The rain didn't look like it was going to stop, and the soldier hoped he wouldn't need to use the toilet until it did. He took off his steel helmet and placed it under the drips to collect the rainwater. He checked that his machine gun was dry, slipped on a woolen beret and put the uncomfortable headphones back on. There was a strange peace in the monotony of the unsteady radio sounds. The soldier thought about the small infantry in the valley below, taking cover under the dripping pines, waiting for his light signal to move on further north. And he concentrated on the static lullaby. The unpopulated border was under threat of invasion. Rumors circulated among the men that the Americans had already penetrated the country, and this filled everyone with jittery nerves and dreamless sleep. In a few hours' time, history might engrave another banal tragedy into the collective tombstone that none of the men wished to be a part of. He thought about his wife, who was supposed to go to the countryside in the east with her parents. Quiet village with a 12th century mosque, which normally would be safe from bombing. A town where journalists would be based. He had treated her offhandedly when he left their house to join the camouflaged flatbed army truck that had unleashed a powerful klaxon, like a lighthouse signaling danger and ordering him to be quick. He regretted the clumsiness of his departure, his insensitive tongue, the unambitious fashion in which he articulated his fear, the muffled thought that he and she might be separated for eternity by an untimely and uncontrollable death, and never see each other again. He felt like running away with her to another country, to a place with no allegiance, to a non-political oasis where they could lie arm in arm, breast to breast, chest to chest, cheek to cheek, drifting into each other's dreams like characters in the children's books. But he had already left her when the horn blew. He spat out an offhand reminder that fate was probably against them, that she had not to forget to hide her rings and jewelry in the seam of her coat. He insisted that she should leave the village before the mayor's order was given to help ensure a smooth voyage without the 1,000 others that would wait like sheep to all leave together. He was glad they didn't have children. He took her in his arms. She felt stiff and lifeless like an old life jacket, a hallway carpet, Her hands touched the muscles in his back but didn't caress the cloth. She held him as if she were a wooden puppet, with the hands of a sad Pinocchio. Then they separated, tears in her eyes, red bags under his. He didn't say he loved her even though it was the only thing in his mind. The pressure had blown his fuses. The unreality of the events blinded his emotions. He moved in a fractal of motion, his feelings blocked in his shoulders. He left as though he was leaving a dentist's office, like a mule being tugged, like a toy car with broken wheels. And he shifted his weight backwards out of the house, turning his head this way and that, and made his way into the back of the army truck with 2 or 3 others. He stared back at the house as the vehicle revved up and drew away, turning the road into fumes and dust. And she didn't even bother to stay outside and watch the truck disappear. Exhausted with stress, she just waved, turned, and walked limply back into the single-story small house. She had disappeared, like incense. A scarf in the wind, a handshake in a bus, a nail in a wood shop. Like a candle left near a fire. Like film projected on smoke. And he was disappearing, like a train, watered down the drain, fishing bait, a pigeon, an endangered species. He was trying to be brave, pretending to be, and in doing so he had failed her. He had denied his own heart, and this had put a veto in hers. The fuzzy sound of the radio signal suddenly turned very sour and melancholic. The grizzle no longer felt calm. It sounded unalterable, untouchable, and cruel. He thought that the signal was possibly being scrambled, that the Americans were using their sophisticated technology to cut him off from the rest of the world. That the static was actually a representation of presence. A voice then broke in. He didn't understand a word.